Today's pose is half moon. Again, a great balance pose, but tends to be challenging for a number of reasons. So in a yoga class, if you're a teacher and you haven't really assessed or assisted that hip warming up process, a half moon can often be a challenge because the pelvis is just not warmed up and open enough yet. And if our glutes aren't strong enough, we can really lack the ability to stack the hip and lift the top leg. So I'm going to show you a couple easy tips and techniques that you might find is helpful for better success in a pose like half moon, and then backtracking and going, okay, what poses can I use as a warm-up to make this pose even more powerful? All right, so we're going to start from Warrior 2. So Lainey's going to open up and just kind of get right into Warrior 2. Granted, you've walked your student through this pose already. Awesome. So when you're transitioning from a pose like Warrior 2 into a balance pose like half moon, I really want you to think about that front leg as being strong and secure. And also as a teacher and a student, making sure that that front foot is already set up. For people that kind of have a more unsteady balance, they tend to skew their foot and make it turn in or out to try to compensate where their balance may or may not go. So first things first, look at your student where they're at in Warrior 2, because half moon is kind of Warrior 2 turned on its side. So before you bring them in, you can have them simply check the foot. The block is already set out in front. I like to have students already have their block either close to the foot or aligned on a diagonal from the pinky toe to ensure that they're going to have just go right there, drop right into the pose, no stress, no sweat. All right, nice deep breath in. Exhale, Lainey's going to come forward, reach for her block, and as she sets herself up, she's going to try to find that half moon. So a couple things. As a reminder, we always adjust and assess from the bottom to the top. Because when we adjust our lower body, a lot of times it ends up adjusting the obvious, the upper limbs, in the upper body in that pose. So I see that her foot is lined up, outer edge of the foot with the outer edge of the mat, just like Tadasana or mountain pose. Where a lot of people tend to struggle is they don't quite understand what a long leg is, or let's call it a straight leg, that they go right back into locking. Now Lainey has to work twice as hard because she does have very mobile joints. So it's really important, if you're going to see me under her leg here, really important to keep a super strong quad and not to push the knee back. That I would rather have a student with a slightly bent knee. Just like Warrior 3, they may get more openness in their hip that way as well, rather than jamming the kneecap back. So really important point. Second point, if I'm a teacher adjusting a student, I am always, especially in half moon, a balance pose, going to adjust from the back. That way, they're not going to fall into me, and it's an awkward place to adjust in the front body in a pose like this. So I'm going to come up against her, lean my pelvis into her hip, take one hand to her front hip, and then I can slowly lift or adjust the leg. Sometimes, depending on how they're strong, glute, hip flexor, oblique, the leg may shoot forward or shoot too far back. Or another compensation is they turn the toes and knee up, and that's a surefire way to overuse the hip flexor. So we really want to square the hip so that I would ask them, you feel the side seam of your pant activating, basically the muscles underneath, yes? Mm-hmm. It's not necessary to have the leg 20 inches above the hip. Hip level is fine. If you go a couple inches higher, that's fine, as long as you stay in the side seam of the leg. As you work your way up, I often talk about half moon as being a twist. So again, back behind her, she's going to rotate and revolve her rib cage and heart up towards the ceiling, which should also make her obliques work harder, yeah? Great. So again, it's not just tipping sideways. And then finally turning the heart as then she realigns that top arm. Pressing into the bottom arm, it's 80-20 body weight. 80% in the legs, just 20%, maybe not anything really at all in the arm, as a progression in half moon is actually to balance the bottom arm with no support at all. So definitely a good challenge. Lainey's doing awesome with it. And then if you'd like a little bit more of a balance challenge, you can look up on an inhale, bringing the chin to the shoulder. A common issue of error here is people open the throat. You want to keep Jalandhara and keep the chin to the chest and then roll up to the shoulder for a much safer neck stretch. In coming out of the pose, bend the base knee, and slowly drop back into warrior two, where you came from. A good little challenge. Great. And then slowly releasing the arms down and gently straightening up the leg. She can move to the other side, which she's going to do right now, because I'm going to show you a couple of the little things here. Great. So nice deep breath in. Lainey comes forward. She's going to grab for her block. Now, if you're a teacher or you're a student and for whatever reason you kind of have an adversity against using a prop, I always try to describe using a prop as all you're doing is lifting the floor up. If you have short arms, I have long arms, the floor is never going to be an option. And when we struggle to touch the floor, if Lainey gets rid of the block, what ends up happening without falling over is the hip ends up closing down and we end up in almost a folded position, all because we want to touch that floor so badly. So the block has 3 levels. Use it interchangeably as needed and as you see fit to ensure the success of the pose in using the right muscles, not necessarily looking the way you think it should look the right way, like a book or a magazine. Awesome. So again, I'm checking that her heel is in line with her hip. I can assist that rotation using my fingers on her rib cage. It doesn't take much, people. And then slowly again, readjusting the shoulders. I can adjust her arm. Nice deep breath in. I usually always tell my students when I'm going to step away from them, I'm going to slowly step away from you. You can feel them contract as you do that. Really, really important tip. Nice deep breath in here, Lainey. Bend your base knee. And then fall back gently into warrior two. Exhale. Awesome job. Great. Bring the arms down slowly. And slowly step your feet together. So now I want you to practice half moon. Ensure success. Practice with a partner. Practice those adjustments. Look for the alignment cues we talked about. And I know you're going to do a great job.